Shalom Aleichem Rabotai, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and Mishnah Yomi is continuing in the first parak of Shabbos at Mishnah Daled. These Mishnahot are for Shabbos Chayesara, obviously being recorded before Shabbos. On Shabbat itself, we are having Kiddush in honor of the Siyum on Zerayim at Suburban Orthodox. Hope to see you at Kiddush there. Also later in the afternoon, they're making a Siyum at Beit Yaakov, Rabbi Golfe's shul. They're in Mincha 4:14, so Siyum about 20 minutes later during Suda Shlishit or Shalosh Sudas, and then Motzei Shabbos at 8:30. They're making at Merkaz Torah Tefillah a large Siyum there. So lots of celebrations in honor of Zerayim. But now let's continue Shabbos. Mishnah Daled Perek Aleph Ve'elu, and these Min HaChalachot are from the laws Sha'amru Ba'aliyat, that they said in the attic of Hananiah ben Chizkiah ben Gurion. They went up to visit the Gadol Ador, Hananiah. What was he doing in the attic? So in that generation, there was a large concern over Sefer Yehezkel. There are certain items in Sefer Yehezkel that seem to be contradictory to psukim in the Torah. Like it says, Kohanim can't eat nevel and treifa. No, it's just Kohanim. Everyone can't eat nevel and treifa. So what's going on? So the sages were concerned. People might get the wrong idea from Yechezkel. Said maybe we should put it in the Geniza. So Hananiah ben Chizkiah ben Gurion, he went up to the attic with a bunch of oil and a Sefer Yechezkel and a Sefer Torah to figure it out, to have a way to resolve all the contradictions so they wouldn't have to put Yechezkel in the Geniza and keep it, for the Mikubolim. So we have him to thank for the fact that we still enjoy a Sefer Yechezkel and it wasn't hidden away for people who delve into secrets. So Kishe'olu Levokros, the Mishnah continues, when they went up to visit him in the attic, Nimnu, they counted, or they voted, V'rabu Beit Shammai Beit Hillel, and there were more Beit Shammai nicks than Beit Hillel nicks. And these were great sages, great rabbis were up there. Ushmona Asur Dvarim Gazr Bo B'Yom, and they made 18 decrees. Apparently they voted on 18 items of halacha that had been a debate between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, and they voted these 18 like Beit Shammai. Now, the Mishnah itself doesn't list all of these items, but the Bartanura, as you see, brings all of them. The Gemara in Shabbos explains all of them. They are similar to what we had. Actually, two of them are in the last Mishnah. They're similar to this concept of avoiding problems. So we're not really going to go into all of them. If you see me on Shabbat, we can go over the Bartanura together and we can talk with these in detail. But a lot of them are avoiding Tuma, avoiding Truma, getting puzzle. So they're about, keeping Tahor and keeping a higher standard. So you avoid Tuma. There's an interesting one where you're not supposed to shower immediately after going to the mikveh, because in those days, the mikveh might have been a little bit dirty in a cave, you understand, and then people take a shower after and clean off the mikveh. And so some people are getting the wrong idea that the shower is what made people tahor, not the mikveh, and then they're simply avoiding the mikveh. So that's an example of the decree to try to get people away from a problem like what we've had so far in this parak. Decree number 6 was really interesting. We don't put truma in the Aron Kodesh with the Sefer Torah because mice would come and they'd eat the truma and they'd also nibble on the Sefer Torah or the Tanakh or whatever else is in there. So the rabbi said that scrolls actually disqualify truma as if they're tameh. So it's interesting. We try not to touch the scroll itself, the parchment itself, because we might, smudge the letters or get schmutz on the actual parchment. But back then they had another reason not to touch it, because then it's going to mess up the truma, because you don't want truma food stored with scrolls. Also, number 13 was interesting because we had in Zerayim that if you planted truma, then the seed was truma, and you planted it in the ground, the Kohen planted it, then what grows is not truma. However, the rabbis made a gezerah that if it's truma tameya, you weren't allowed to do it. So it was also considered truma, even though deraita it's not, because we were concerned that the Kohen would keep his truma tameya around, and instead of planting it, he'll get hungry and he'll eat it. Number 14 is also interesting because it talked about if Shabbos is coming right now and a man is on the road and he's carrying his wallet, what does he do with it? So they say it's better to give it to a non-Jew than to try to carry it, a little bit at a time. We're going to see later on in the Masechta that carrying very small amounts, less than Arba Amot, is not an Isser Deraisa. It's not really a Hotzah. So we'll talk about that later in detail. The 15th and the 16th the things they voted on is actually what we had in the last Mishnah, not to clean out your clothing, but or a nair, and not to read but or a nair, as we talked about in Mishnah number 3. But again, the Bartanura goes through all of these, but not really, don't really have time for it right now because it's not printed in the Mishnah. So let's go on to Mishnah Hey. Beit Shammai Omrim. Beit Shammai says, "Ensuring diyo v'samamanim v'karshinim." We don't soak ink or dyes or vetch. We also mentioned vetch in Seder Zroim. It's kind of usually an animal food, could be eaten by people if there's nothing else to eat. Only if there's time for them to soak thoroughly and be prepared when it's still daytime. Mibad Yom means before Shabbos, before Shkia. Beit Hillel matirin. Beit Hillel lets you continue to soak them on Shabbos. So what's the nekudas machlokes here, Rabbi Sai? So do you have to have your kalim rest on Shabbos? Now the pasuk in Shmos 23 verse 12 says you have to rest and your animals have to rest. So if your animals have to rest, Beit Shammai says also your kalim. If your ox can't pull, then you also shouldn't have your kli, your vat for soaking dye. You shouldn't have that be working also on Shabbos. So you shouldn't be setting traps. You shouldn't be loading things into an oven, even if you're not adding fuel. You shouldn't be putting things into a vat to get soaked and properly wet or properly moist to the right extent that it's useful. Shouldn't do that on Shabbat. So Beit Hillel says it is allowed that, yes, your animals are commanded to rest on Shabbos. There's Tsar Balei Chaim is a very important concept deraisa. So Hashem told their animals to rest, but your kli, your bowl, your vat, doesn't have to necessarily rest on Shabbos. So we permitted to allow these items to continue working. And of course, this is only in a way where the man is not going to interfere with the soaking or whatever process is going on Shabbos itself, and also where it doesn't make noise, where there's no avsha milsa, it's called, where there's no noise. If someone leaves his windmill loudly grinding seeds on Shabbos, everyone knows it's doing something on Shabbos. It could be a problem because it's making noise and everyone hears that or sees that. An interesting shaila, which might become lamaisa sooner than we think, is what about your robot? Is your robot more like your kli or more like your behema on Shabbos? So that's a tzorachiyun gadol. We'll see when we get these shailas lamaisa about robots and artificial intelligence and all of these items, if they are allowed to continue to do things on Shabbos. So it's we'll find out, God willing. Every generation has new chidushim in halacha. Shabbat shalom, Rabbatai. Good Shabbos. Sei gesund.